coming
That
out.
is crazy that's how long ago it was when we were working together.
Yeah.
When you really look at our journey as friends, it's weird that we haven't been like best friends a lot longer than we have been.
Yeah, it's
you know, like
yeah.
we worked together for so long. Our interests are so similar, and then we moved away from each other, didn't talk except on Facebook every so often. And then you got on the podcast. It's like, oh, now we're best friends. Like,
Yeah.
why weren't we best friends for the last 10 years?
Right.
I don't understand.
I mean, I honestly, like, I have been on record saying that I'm also a horrible friend as well in regards to talking to people, because like I have a bunch of friends of mine, like even people who live like 10 minutes away from me. I have at least 2 people off the top of my head that I can think of that like I talk to maybe like once a month. And even one of my friends, he's like, dude, you can call me sometimes. I'm like, yeah, I know. There's stuff and life, and I mean, usually my schedule just doesn't line up with their schedules. And like my other friend, he's got a kid, but like he and I'll like text. We'll send like 5 text messages back and forth like once a month, and like, hey, you're still alive, right? Yep. Okay, cool.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming, and for whatever reason, you have decided to tune in to another Horrible Gaming Podcast. With me, as always, is
Neil, a.k.a. A Tiny Wizard.
It's like boo! Oh, I'm early. That episode hasn't come out yet. Oh. Watch Streets of Retro this week. Watch Streets of Retro. Okay, so, yeah, credits. Good start. Credits. We just want to really quickly thank Mark Bell for all the original graphics that he's made for this show. Thank you to him. We'd also like to thank Nick Van Sliders, my brother. He writes and performs all the theme songs and original songs that you've heard on this channel. So check him out in his entirety. So thank you to both of you for that. And as usual, my kid is behind me with the tablet. So things could get a little bit weird. It's a horrible gaming podcast for a reason.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to the top of the show on our first segment and probably our most favorite segment, and that's Fan Interaction. That's where we talk to you guys, the fans, and predominantly Kev Tutal. And basically, we read out your comments that you post here and everywhere. We also ask you guys questions to be answered. We decide the horrible arena voters, all that fun stuff we do right here in the top of the show. So, without further ado, let's get to the Kevin torrent. He posted, a gallon of milk is 8 pounds, commenting on the whole console weight thing. So I said, so it weighs more than a gallon of milk. That's still too much for a PS5's weight. He then said, nope, not offended, because we were worried that he was, because he didn't comment on the last episode. And in case anybody was wondering, he did actually comment on the last episode after we recorded and a ton, but I can't read all of those and all of his this time. So I've got to just read yours this time, Kev. I do want to say, just for pride's sake, because it didn't count, he voted for my game last week.
Oh.
I know. I would have gotten it, but it forever stands a tie. Okay, so then he said, you will fear this. I don't know what that's in reference to. He then said, Zach, aside from collecting others, you just described Bonanza Brothers on the Genesis. He's referring to my horrible arena pitch. We had to pitch a 2D 2D mascot platformer. And I've never heard of Bonanza Brothers. Have you ever heard of Bonanza Brothers?
I've heard of it, but I don't know much.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. I kind of want to play it now. If it's truly as close to what I pitched as that. And I actually commented to him and said, I really want to play that. I've never heard of that game, surprisingly. And I thought I had heard of every game. Then he said, we were talking about whether or not you should finish Half-Life, whether or not you should finish because of Duke Nukem Forever. He actually said, if you compare Duke Nukem Forever to its predecessor, it's awesome. It was a blast to play, and I felt satisfied at the end. Compared to games it released against, yes, it was garbage. But I looked at it as the conclusion to Duke, not a current game, which I think that's an interesting way to look at it.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. And basically that's what I said last week is good or bad, I would rather have a conclusion than not have one.
Yeah.
You know? He then said he votes for Neil. Zach lost me with the pixel art. I think it's being on PC. So many games went with pixel art. I'm kind of over it for a while. There are a lot of pixel art games out there. They're, from what I understand, pretty easy to do. So indie companies kind of like capitalize on that. But that's fair. And he was the only vote. So Neil, your winning streak continues. You're on a roll. And I really thought I had you that week.
I honestly thought you had me too.
But I did not. So congratulations. Project Mastermind gets the win. No, Project Crescendo gets the win. And now I think I haven't tallied in a while, but I think you're right up there with me. Yeah, that would be perfect timing, right? I mean, we've been down here for 2 hours. You haven't said a word now that I'm recording. I see it. Yes, you can play with it. Was that it? Was that all you wanted to ask? Okay. And then finally, Kev Tutal wanted to point out that Jazz, the movie version Jazz from the Michael Bay Transformers, was a Saturn Sky. About our cold open.
It took me a minute, to get back to what we're talking about. It's like, yeah.
Everybody out there, just to give you a little insight as to why Neil is so confused, nobody who is on the show knows what I'm going to use for the cold open or the bonus clips. We just gab at each other when in between segments, and I just pick the funniest. So like Neil probably might have not even known that was on the show.
Yeah, no, I listened to it, but I listened to it like next day, and it didn't. It's one of those things that just didn't stick in my mind long enough to know exactly what it was you were talking about.
All right, so yeah, that's all the comments for this episode. We did ask a question, and that was, what did people think of the Ubisoft Forward event? And I guess Kevin did not have an opinion on that one. So we're just going to move on. Do we want to ask a question this week?
I mean, I'm sure we do. I don't have one at the ready. Well, actually, no. You know what? I kind of do have one in light of the fact that we are recording this literally after Nintendo's Mini Direct came out, and how's everybody feeling the announcements this generation, or at least this year, like how they're handling it? Do we miss E3? Do we like this format? I personally, spoiler alert, I don't like this format. But yeah, what does everybody else think?
Yeah, we could definitely talk about that in Fan Interaction next week, because I have some thoughts as well. I don't necessarily hate the format, but I feel like nobody's figured out how to do it, and because of that, it's just constant like clickbait. You
know what? I actually have a tinfoil hat for this one.
Ooh.
Yeah. So just real quick, not to hang on it too long, what I think is happening is all of these companies, it's what Sony and Microsoft are doing. They're holding all of their big announcements. They're breaking all of their conferences up, and they're throwing the little stuff out there to see if people will bite on it, or they are throwing the little stuff out there knowing that everybody else is going to have something, and they want to be the one with that big heavy hitter at the last second. It's like Nintendo today, the things that they showed, it was really nothing. And there was like a huge leak about that Mario compilation.
Yep.
That didn't show up, but they already said, well, we're going to have more. Ubisoft, we're going to have more. EA, we're going to have more.
Right.
Like everybody's, they're just screwing with us. And I think it's more so the same idea as with the console announcements and information. Is nobody wants their stuff to get buried. So it's actually going to work the opposite way. Everybody's going to throw all their little stuff out, and then at the end of the year they're going to announce all of their crazy heavy hitting stuff, which is all going to either overwhelm us or something's going to get lost in the shuffle.
If we're going to talk about this as a subject, we should probably hold it until we talk about it as a subject.
Yeah, well, I know, but I mean, I didn't think we were going to do a full subject on it, but it was just at the forefront of my mind, and I was just angry about wasting 10 minutes.
Personally, I think that it would be really cool if every one of these little shows had one cool new big thing.
Yeah.
But what it is right now is it's like we got something coming, and then you make sure you tune in, and then it's a bunch of shit you already heard about, and then they tell you, oh, we still got something coming,
Right.
If every one of these, like if we got that dotted throughout the year, I think it would be really cool, because then you'd get game announcements closer to releases. You could do stuff like that. You could build hype a little bit closer, instead of like the E3 thing where like you hear about something and it's not coming out for 14 months.
Right.
So I think that would be cool, but at the same time, that's not what they're doing. They're just pushing out this garbage over and over again and wasting our time, which is irritating.
Yes, very much so.
All right, so let's wrap fan interaction and then move on to our first talking point.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to our first talking point, and the talking point, unfortunately, I know we spend a lot of time on Microsoft and Xbox and Phil Spencer. And I'm sorry. I know everybody thinks I'm an Xbox fanboy. But I don't know if you'll think that after today, because Xbox has been making some serious questionable choices lately. So we decided to just put it together in a big old talking point and talk about it. So what should we start with here, Neil? What do you want to start on?
You know what? I think I'll start right out of the gate with the fact that they are discontinuing both the Xbox One S All Digital Edition, which frankly, I'll be honest, shouldn't. That was just dumb in the first place. Nobody bought one of those. Yeah. But the other one that they're discontinuing is the Xbox One X, which blows my mind completely. Why?
I'm glad you started with this, because I'm very upset about this as well.
Yeah. Given the steps that they're taking for this next generation, why are you going to discontinue your higher end base model Xbox One,
right,
and keep the One S?
Right.
Like, is it a ploy to force people who have the One S into one of the newer systems? Like, I don't understand. The One X has comparable, I mean, not obviously the same, but comparable specs to something along the lines of what you'd be getting with this next generation of Xbox consoles. Why are you going to discontinue the thing that can run games longer now, as opposed to the thing that will probably not be able to run these new games within the next year?
Right. It could be one of two things. It could be a really skeezy way to force people to buy the newer systems, like you said, which I hope it's not. It's very well could be that. The thing that I think it is just poor future managing and poor looking at a poor analyzation is what I would say. Because here's what I think happened. I think they're looking at numbers, and I think the One S sells tons of boxes, and I think the One X doesn't sell that much. And that's because nobody's buying the One X right now. Because you have these new systems coming out. or you just want to get the 1S, you know what I mean, and just be casual. And
Right.
I think the mistake is looking at that like, oh, well, it's not selling, we should discontinue that one and keep this one. And I think that's what it is. I think it's just, I hate to say it, but just straight up stupidity. I think they're looking at the numbers and they're going, okay, well, this one sells more, keep that one around. The problem is that if you got rid of the 1S, kept the 1X, in going into the next generation, the 1X would become the next buy system. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like, I don't like the casual buy system, and I don't understand why they can't see that. I think this is just a gigantic mistake. It makes them look terrible. It means that the 1X lifespan was less than the Jaguar.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I never even thought of that.
You look it up, the 1X will go down in history as one of the shortest lifespans of a system in history. And we're talking about all the big failures. Sega Saturn, I think it actually lasted longer than the 1X. Like I mean, that's the thing that I'm super.
Oh God!
Right, that's the thing I'm super worried about. Why take that loss, man? Why take that loss? Like, no matter what you do, now you look like that system was a mistake.
The only thing that I can think of as justification for this, and I don't even know if this would be a viable reason, is the manufacturing process that they use to make the Xbox One X is the same as the Series X consoles.
Right.
Maybe they needed to stop manufacturing on those to be able to pump out more of the Series X. I mean, if that's the case, okay, but I feel like that's something that they would have said.
That's my thing. Like, if that's the reason, I think everybody would be a lot more forgiving with it, but that has to be the statement. Like, we need to discontinue this so that we can make more of these. Like, okay, you take less of a hit, you know, but instead they just silently discontinued it. And that's just a mistake. It's just a serious mistake. Without a better reason publicly, it's just a mistake, because that's the system I was going to get, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you can
with
still
my
pick
PC.
one up. Yeah, I'm sure you can still pick one up. I'm sure people, you know, are going to be trading those in whenever the Series X consoles come out. But at the same time, like, it's just weird. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
It really doesn't make any sense when you factor in the fact that the 1S is sticking around too.
That too, yeah.
Yeah, like, that really is the one that's like, why? Like, if you were discontinuing everything, and I would say that's stupid given the ideology you put forward of everything plays on the old systems. You know, you shouldn't be discontinuing anything really, except maybe the original gen. But, like, I would still at least be like, all right, you're looking forward to the new systems. I get it. But, like, you kept the 1S. The 1S is still being manufactured. So somebody explain to me why that's a choice that you made. And nobody is explaining anything. And these companies, they need to learn how to be transparent.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, do you want to move on to another questionable Xbox choice? Or?
Well, absolutely. I was going to try segueing right into that just there.
We segued on top of each other.
Yes.
It was a segue off. Basically, the next one I think we should talk about is the Xbox Gold subscription. They have discontinued yearly subscription choices for Xbox Live Gold, which I don't know how many people still use them. I can tell you right now, I do. Once a year, I go on Groupon and I get my Xbox Live Gold for $40, $50, and I got it for a full year. That choice is done. It's going away. So can I tell you why I'm irritated about this?
Go on ahead. Tell me why you're irritated about this, Zach.
Well, I want to say something that bothers me about this whole situation, and that is Xbox is all about, like, player choice, and they're all about, like, accessibility and all of that noise that they make. That's fine, but you can't silently then force us to get Xbox Games Pass Ultimate. Like, and that's what it is. You're funneling us to this. I want to point out something else that went away a while ago that nobody said anything about, and that was you used to be able to, with their rewards points, purchase monthly subscriptions for just the base Games Pass. You can't do that anymore. You have to buy the Games Pass Ultimate with it, and it's 4,000 more points. Or you have to buy the gift cards just straight up and then pay it with the gift cards. They're trying to funnel everybody into this, I think it's like $13 a month subscription fee, period. That's what they want. They want you there. That's the placement they want. They don't want you on the yearly. They don't want you compartmentalizing the Games Pass and the Games for Gold. They want it all in one. And that's very annoying to me. You want player choice. You need to let us choose the way we subscribe as well.
Well, the one point I'll make on that is, I mean, if you think about it, Phil Spencer has not exactly been silent about that. He wants to get everybody into the Microsoft ecosystem. And
Right.
While they're doing it a shady way, I mean, he's held true to that. He's getting people into Game Pass Ultimate and everything. But
hey, see, that's the thing. The problem is, I'm sorry to cut you off, but
go ahead.
I gotta jump on that one. The people that he's hurting are the people who are already committed to the Microsoft ecosystem. That's my problem with this. He's not forcing people into games. He's not forcing Sony people into Games Pass Ultimate. He's forcing the people who already are in the ecosystem, already using Games Pass, already using Games for Gold, to get this other service that they possibly don't necessarily want. And that is irritating to me. Like, the people he's really annoying here aren't the people signing on, because the people who are going out to buy a box or going out to get on a PC with it are just going to buy Ultimate right off the bat. They don't care. They don't have any frame of reference. You know what I mean? The people he's really like hurting here are the people who are already in the ecosystem, who already love it, like me.
Well, there's also been, since this has come out, rumors floating around.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
That they actually might be getting rid of the paywall for Xbox Live.
Yeah.
And
I've heard
they're going to start they make so much money on Game Pass that they actually can just let people online for free and then charge for Game Pass. I don't know as if they'll do that per se, but I mean, if it's as successful as they claimed it's been with Game Pass, I mean, they very well could do that, especially like being more inclusive, trying to get people in. All of these games now are online, and it's seen as something that's like, well, you have to have Xbox Live Gold to be able to do anything with half the games you have anyways. They may have just come to that realization and kind of bit the bullet on taking that extra money hit that they would have been making from charging for gold, and just saying, like, using that as a flag, like, hey, look at us, you don't have to pay for online.
Well, and that's the positive spin on it, right? That you would be taking that paywall down, and that would be actually really cool. I would probably do a 180 on that, because okay, I'll pay for Games Pass Ultimate at that point, maybe even, my thing is, though, is right now we're not getting any. That's not happening right now. Like, if you're just looking at it in the present, all we've gotten is a restriction,
right? And
that's what I'm commenting on. Like this, like if you're going to turn around and make games, if you're going to make Xbox Live Gold free, hey, okay, that's great. But nobody's saying that right now. Nobody's telling us that. There's just a rumor going around, and it's a rumor that analysts have pointed out, not Microsoft. There's no confirmation about it. So I'm still going to be mad until you give me a reason otherwise.
Well, another thing that I guess it was something else that we talked about too is the fact that Game Pass Ultimate is cool. Now going to have the Project X Cloud as a part of it. Now, I think it's cool that xCloud's finally going to be coming out here soon in an official capacity in September. And it's going to have a different name, apparently, too. They're going to give it a full-on name. But I also think it's not necessarily a bad move, but it's just kind of like, the fact that they are making that to be something that you have to pay for when they haven't really been forthright with the messaging on that idea. I mean, charge for something that you've put a lot of time and money into, sure, but I don't know, just how xCloud has been presented, at least in my eyes, it's been presented as something that's like a part of the base Xbox experience.
Really? Okay.
That's kind of the messaging that I got.
I mean, going back to what you said in the beginning, if it's part of the base Xbox experience, then that's where they want it anyway. Like, they want your base Xbox experience to be Games Pass Ultimate.
Right. And if that's the case, which it's looking like that's really what they're trying to do, then that would fit within that narrative.
Right.
I don't know. I thought it was going to be something that you just kind of was able to do. But again, I think that's kind of foolish of me to think that something as monumental as that would be free.
I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying, like, and their messaging about it has been a little bit confusing, at least as far as like whether or not you're paying for it or whatnot. That being said, I don't think that we should expect that we weren't going to pay something for it.
Right.
I will say I think xCloud is a success on a lot of other levels. I think xCloud makes Stadia look like crap.
Absolutely.
Because xCloud is the right way to do it. It's streaming correctly. You still have a box to play your normal stuff on, but when you want to play on your phone, you can play there. You know, I think they've done it very well in that fashion. They've also allowed you to play all of your games that you already own. So you don't have to pay a subscription fee on top of the games that you're already paying. I mean, unless you count Games Pass Ultimate as a subscription fee, but most likely you're already paying that. So I feel like this is. I see where you're coming from in that. I think this is overall the best move that we could have gotten out of it. Like, this is the best case scenario for Project xCloud's launch.
Yeah. I mean, they very well could have cordoned that off as its own subscription too.
Right. Exactly. I think that they could have done that. I don't think they could have made it free. You know, I just don't think they could have done that. And this way, I think there was probably definitely discussion about what they were going to do with it. And I think this way they're like, hey, this is just another reason for people to get Games Pass Ultimate, you know? Because it's like you said, that's what, I mean, it's like we both said, that's what they want. They want everybody on Games Pass Ultimate. Hell or high water. That's what they want.
Yeah. I mean, I've already made the switch over. I was paying for Xbox Live Gold 3 months at a time because of like my school situation and everything. Because once school kicks back in for me next month,
right,
my free time is supremely limited, and I like never even turn on my Xbox usually.
Right.
So then I would get it for 3 months in the summer, and then, see what happens. Usually I would forget once to turn it off, and I would get another charge and this, that, and the other thing. But, I mean, limiting the limiting of how often you can get your subscription for Xbox could very well point towards them having a big change towards online. I think that they would get a lot of people would get pretty upset if they go out and buy a $60 1-year subscription when, who knows, they could make an announcement on this Thursday at their conference after they talk about all the games like, hey, by the way, Xbox Live Gold is just the standard now.
Right.
Doing it at least 3 months at a time or 1 month increments, like that kind of limits that blow and limits their almost, I guess I would say, liability in that regard.
I haven't switched over to Games Pass Ultimate yet. And the reason is, I mean, while I am going to get a PC, I don't have a PC yet.
Right.
I only have a Games Pass. Like, you have at least a gaming laptop to play some of this stuff on. Right. I have a console, and that's it. So, like, all I need is Games of Gold and Games Pass. And that's another thing that kind of irritates me about this funneling to Games Pass Ultimate, because there are plenty of people out there who aren't playing on PC, who are just playing on console, who don't need the extra and you make it harder for them to get it. If you want to go Games Pass Ultimate all the way around, that's fine. I think it needs to drop by $1, or you need to give us yearly subscription options for it.
Which very well could happen.
It could, and that would be great. I would be all for that, and then I'll just do what I've been doing. I'll upgrade. I'll go to Games Pass Ultimate, and I'll just buy it once a year, like I do Games for Gold. But you need to make those options, because I don't like paying that extra dollar, those extra dollars every month. I would rather just buy it in bulk, basically.
Right.
Do we have any other things to add to the Xbox stuff, or do you think we can move on?
No, I think we're good to move on.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so our second talking point today, we're going to pull a little bit of a curveball. I know we mentioned that we were going to talk about the Nintendo Direct, but I think we actually covered everything we wanted to say about that in Fans Reaction.
Yeah.
It was a waste of time. They didn't
It's not
announce
much to say.
new. That's it. 10 minutes of our lives we can't have back.
Right.
So for this second talking point, we're gonna pivot a little bit and do something quick and fun before we go to odds and ends, and that is, what's your day one buys, man, of everything that you've seen so far coming out for the remainder of 2020 and even 2021? I'm all right with it. What's your top 5? These are the games I'm pre-ordering or buying on day one. You want to go back and forth? We can. I'm totally good. Or you could just list all of yours. I can list all of mine. However you want to do it.
We'll go back and forth, I think. Well, first and foremost, I mean, I think it's no secret, Cyberpunk.
I think we can just uniformly say that's one of both of ours.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's one of everyone's on the planet. I think the only one waiting on that to see if it's good is Phil Billy.
Well, you know what? The vibe that I got off of him when we talked about it was it's not that he doesn't want to. He just wants to really, really make sure it's what he wants before he spends the money on it.
Yeah. Well, the thing with Phil Billy, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, so Phil Billy, feel free to blast me in the comments if I misspeak, is he really likes the social aspect of gaming. He likes multiplayer stuff. He likes to play with other people. He doesn't necessarily like versus. He does do a lot of Call of Duty Warzone with some people, but for the most part, he likes to play with other people. He doesn't necessarily like the games he has to play alone. Cyberpunk is a game he has to play alone,
Right.
So I kind of feel him on that. If you're looking for a multiplayer experience, I don't think that's going to be a game for you.
At least not yet. Eventually they'll have it, but
I will say, I do want to say right now, I'm almost sick of that, of how much I want that game. That's one of those things. There's certain games that it's they get so hyped that it's yes, I'm going to buy it day one. Yes, it's going to be the greatest game ever. God, it sucks because of that.
I absolutely 100% feel that. I was feeling something along those lines with Final Fantasy 15 whenever it came out. I had played the early demo that they had put out, the one that came with, I think it was Final Fantasy Type 0 that it was, the weird card one. Mm-hmm. But they had a demo for that. I had sank so many hours into that demo. I think I played that demo for 15 hours, and it was just
Final Fantasy 15 when it came out.
I did. I mean, I fell off of it, unfortunately, just because the amount of time that I had. But it was a huge open world. I mean, there's random dungeons to find, dungeon crawling through it. It was really good. Nice fluid combat akin to Devil May Cry, honestly. And
I actually really enjoyed it. I bought it as well. I've since sold it. It's actually in Games Pass right now if anybody wants to try it. There was one thing that super irritated me about that game that made me stop playing it.
What was that?
The amount of time that you would get attacked. It was every 4 minutes, a plane would come overhead and drop a bunch of guys on you.
Oh.
And that got so frustrating. I would be just trying to go somewhere to fish or pick flowers or something like that, and I would just get guys dropped on me, or I'd be fighting somebody else and guys would just drop on me, or I'd be going after a monster and then guys would drop on me. It got to a point where it was so irritating that I was I looked up online, is there a way to get this to stop? I hate this. And there wasn't. And then I was okay, I'm done. I can't play this anymore. It's just too disruptive. But the game itself, like the actual combat, was really cool and innovative. I liked the world. I thought the storyline was incomprehensible, but every Final Fantasy storyline is incomprehensible to me, so that's fine. But I liked the open world. I liked the monster hunting too. I thought it was very good.
Yeah. So, well, what's going to be a day one for you?
Well, I mean, like I said, I'm with you on Cyberpunk, so I'm not even going to use that one.
Yeah.
But day one, I guess this isn't a purchase since I'm getting it through Games Pass. I don't know if that counts or not, but Grounded. So excited for Grounded. It comes out next week in early access to Games Pass people. You get it for free. And it's next Tuesday, I think, the 28th. Yeah, next Tuesday. I'm so super excited about this. I'm so super excited about that game. I know it's kind of independent, and there are definitely some things they need to work on, but I played the first flight. I played the first demo. I'm just super excited to, like, get in there and hunt some bugs and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is it's on Game Pass Ultimate, or on Game Pass, that is. So, like, I'll be able to try it out. Because
I'm not going to lie. I was thinking about making it, because we're going to need another game for the three of us to play after Minecraft. And I was thinking, while it's probably not, I've played it, and I can tell you, it's probably not a game you would stay with forever. Like, you'd probably appreciate it and then, like, move on, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it might be a little bit more up your alley than even Minecraft Dungeons was for the three of us to play together for a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
So
The next one I was going to say is actually in the same vein of what you just said. I'll have it anyways. Day one is Halo Infinite. I'm stupid ready for that, even though we really have not. We've seen zero gameplay until, well, this coming Thursday we'll finally get gameplay. But outside of that, like, I know zero about it other than it's a Halo game and they build a new engine for it. And that's it. That's all any of us know. And it's theoretically supposed to be out this year, though that hasn't been confirmed based off of that other post that we had seen a little while back. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for a new Halo. I actually just recently, I've mentioned before, went through with my wife with all of the Halo games and co-op them, with the exception of 5, because they won't let you co-op on the same console. You have to use 2 separate consoles for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I myself, after we went through all of those, went through and finished Halo 5's campaign again.
Well, and you could just, like, give her the Cribs notes, because she'll be off Halo in a second if she plays it. Just be like, hey, this is what happens. It's stupid. Let me just rattle it off, you know?
Yeah, it was weird. Oddly enough, 4 was her favorite one that we played.
You know, I got to say, and I've talked about it on the show before, I'm glad you brought up Halo, because if Logan still listens out there in the world, wherever he is, he will be very happy that Halo was represented on the show. But I am not a Halo guy. I haven't been since 3. I let that go for me, you know? So I never played 4. I never played Reach. I never played 5, you know. I never played any of the wars. So I don't know. That's cool that 4 is the good one for her, but I'm not into Halo anymore. So I'm glad you said something, because I would not have mentioned it.
Honestly, though, outside of that, that's really all I'm looking for, at least in 2020. Outside of that is stuff like 2021 that might be coming out. There's a lot of nebulous things floating around that are maybe this year, maybe next year. That it's mostly Nintendo stuff that they, again, today would have had a chance to say something about, but chose not to.
Well, I got two more day one.
Right.
And that is, number 1, with a bullet. You know I'm not going to miss this. Watch Dogs Legion. It's going to be so much fun. I have been watching a lot of stuff on it, and there are a couple of things that make me a little bit worried.
Like what?
Well, I don't think that your characters can pick up other ranged weapons. I think they just have whatever ranged weapon and close combat weapon they start with.
Ooh.
Yeah, I just noticed that because I've been watching so much of the footage because I'm excited for it. And I was like, hey, have they ever picked up a different gun in these? I don't think they have. The paint guy always has a paintball gun, and the hacker always has a stun gun. What's going on?
That'll be a massive. Sorry to cut you off. That'll be
you're fine.
Massive misstep. That could ruin the whole, because then you'll avoid certain types of characters if you don't like certain play styles, and that just totally eliminates the whole point of the recruit anybody.
Right. So I don't know. I think that worries me a little bit. The other thing that bothered me a little bit is every time you take down a bad guy, he vanishes.
It's video gamey stuff.
I don't know. I don't like that. I like to see the body. And what's weird is they don't actually vanish. They just become camouflaged, which is even stranger to me. Like, okay, I would understand if you had to like get rid of it so that your processor would be less weighed down. But like, I mean, he's still there. He's still predatored. Like, I don't understand why you did that. But so those are two things that bother me, because I wanted to just say a couple of things that worried me, because I know I've been nothing but gung-ho balls to the wall on that game. I'm still gung-ho balls to the wall. And I don't know that the range thing will bother me as much as it would bother you, but it will bother me. Let's put it that way. Then Outriders. I will be getting day one alongside Phil Billy. I think that game's going to be really good. I mean, unless some of the broadcasts that I see between now and then really start to worry me. But as far as it stands right now, I think that game is right up my alley. I'm very excited about it. And then I just want to give an honorable mention. I will probably be waiting till I see a review on this, unfortunately. But the Avengers game actually looks really interesting to me. I think there's some stuff that they're doing there that if they deliver on what they're saying, it can be really unique and interesting in the space it's in.
I mean, I've already said they have to do a lot to bring me over to that game. But as I had said too in our Discord, I would try that game for the single player story, and that's as in regards to the online aspect of it, as the games of service aspect of it. The second that they said Destiny, that's not a prime example of something.
You have one bad experience with service once, and you just won't get back on the horse.
Oh my God. I have tried specials.
My house thing is resolved. We're going to do 2 specials. 1, I'm going to try and get you to play Monster Hunter. And 2, I'm going to take you into a games of service that I love and see if you still hate it once we're done.
I have tried multiple games of service. In fact, I own 3. I have Elder Scrolls. I have Elder Scrolls Online. I have Destiny, the original, and I have Destiny 2.
You own 2 Destiny. First of all, Destiny and Destiny 2 are not different games. You don't get to do that. You don't get to say that I own 3 games of service, Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. Destiny 2 is an up-res Destiny 1 with a different story. And Elder Scrolls Online is an MMO. Those suck. I'm talking about.
I hate MMOs. I loathe MMOs.
I'm talking about good games of service. There are good games of services out there. Like Division 2 was a good games of service. Ghost Recon Breakpoint is actually a good games of service, even though it didn't do that good. There are good games of services out there. Hell, Monster Hunter World is pretty good games of service, honestly. I know I'm going to get hate on that, but
there's a lot of games out there that kind of go for that mantle of games of service.
Right.
Like even Street Fighter 5. Like I mean, while I didn't get into Street Fighter 5 like I did 4,
right.
It's still like Street Fighter 5 there's events and play and do this thing and win this much fight money to unlock this costume, and it's only for this week, or like, you know, special arenas and this, that, and the other thing for special events. Like that, it held no appeal to me in those regards. Now, the only game we've briefly touched on this before, the only game that has those games of service elements that I'm actually like okay with was Borderlands 3.
Okay.
Borderlands 3, the games of service stuff in Borderlands 3. Well, I didn't. Nothing was like, oh man, I have to play Borderlands to do this event. There's
Right.
no event
Right.
that's going to bring me back into that game like that. But the stuff that was present was okay.
Here's
Albeit the Halloween stuff was a little overbearing, lasting for
right.
what, 3
I
months?
think Avengers could be cool even with the internet stuff. If you give me a way to like customize my Avengers and I can go in with friends and do different missions with them. You know what I mean? Like, or even just with randos. I think that would be really cool. And I also love the idea of it's one thing that Monster Hunter World does really good, that it looks like Avengers is doing good, is everything plays differently. So it's a different game regardless, depending on who you're playing. With Monster Hunter, it's the weapon. Whatever weapon you choose basically completely changes the layout of the controller, the way you combat, the way you move. With Avengers, there's actually 2 IGN firsts on it. They do one on each of they do one on like half the character, because there's 6 characters going to start on the onset of the game.
Yeah.
And they talked to the guy. They straight up talked to the guy who developed the combat systems for them, and that was the one that really like kind of brought me in, because he's like, every one of these characters plays completely differently, you know. And if you could do that in that games of service place and not make it a shooter and make it something more interesting and intriguing, I would be on board for that. I want to see what they can do with this. If they deliver on every promise that they lay out, I think it could be a really, really interesting, unique game.
Yeah, it definitely has potential. I'm reserving all judgment until I see something.
And that's fair. And that's fair. I mean, I'm waiting for a review too. All right, so I think that covers our day one buys. You want to move to odds and ends if we have time?
Sure.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
That brings us to odds and ends, one of our favorite shows. Not one of our favorite shows, one of our favorite segments.
Show, entire show.
As we watch gaming throughout the week, we collect little story tidbits that we don't necessarily think are worth an entire talking point, and we just blab them out here in odds and ends. So you want to go first? You want me to, Neil?
Well, I'll go first.
Okay.
Because this one's actually kind of really easy to segue into, as we were just talking about it.
Yay.
The Avengers Open Beta is apparently going to be on August 21st.
Yes.
So
everyone will be trying that. Yeah. I don't know if that's on Xbox One. I heard there was only PC and PlayStation, but if it's on Xbox One, I will be count me in, because I want to see. And then I'll even do a first impressions video on it.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that they would have it across all of the platforms.
I think what they're doing, if I recall correctly, I think it's across all the platforms, but it's like what Monster Hunter Iceborne did, where it's different days. So like PlayStation 4 gets it the first week, then it's like Xbox another week, and then it's not all at the same time is the only thing.
Well, I know I didn't copy this part for the notes of it, but in the article that I had read, it did mention that people who've pre-ordered the game are going to get like a week early access to it.
Right. I'm actually looking it up real quick. I don't want to give the people out there the wrong information. Here we go. Not the full article. Just give me a summary, please.
Nope, full article.
Fudgers. Okay. The open beta starts just a few weeks before the game hits on PS4, Xbox One, Stadia, and PC. Stadia, what's that? On September 4th. At the very least, it'll give those who aren't blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, if you purchase a where is the dates, you suckers? You suckers. Wasting my time. Wasting
everybody's time.
Players who pre-ordered Marvel's Avengers on PS4 will get beta access first on August 7th. A week later, the Xbox One and PC pre-order beta gets underway, as does an open beta on PS4. Then, on August 21st, the open beta will be live on all 3 platforms. So it's all about pre-orders. So like the PS4 pre-order gets first dibs. Then the Xbox One and PC pre-order gets their hat in the ring. And at the same time, the open beta for PS4 starts. Then on August 21st, like you said, everybody can play, regardless.
Right.
So
yeah,
there you go.
So we'll see. We'll see how that all shakes out.
All right. Well, my first one is funny. So Red Dead Redemption is undergoing a clown protest right now. Basically, there hasn't been any substantial, sizable, or quality updates to Red Dead Redemption Online in some time. So all the regular players of it have decided to dress up like clowns. And one of them is quoted as saying, well, we're like clowns because we keep waiting for something to happen and it isn't, so we figured we'd dress like one.
That's great. That is the best type of protest.
Or the worst, man. I'm not a fan of clowns. I'll tell you that right now.
So we had spoke last week about Ubisoft Forward, and I guess telling of the anticipation for this game. I don't think anybody really realized or mentioned that Skull and Bones wasn't there. And
oh my God, you're gonna steal one of mine.
I think I am.
Oh, it's finally happening.
Skull and Bones apparently is being completely scrapped and restarted. I mean, I don't know who is really pumped about this game to begin with.
I was.
Because there's no anything that they've shown. I don't think they even had shown gameplay, if I'm correct. I could be wrong, but
no, I think it was like snippets, like in engine stuff. When the first time they showed it, I'm okay with what they're doing. What they did have a little bit. Mine only had a little bit more details about it, which was basically that they're looking to do like perpetual multiplayer storytelling, akin to like Fortnite.
Okay.
As far as like the multiplayer world. So instead of just like these like matches, supposedly you'll be like sailing around with other people all the time, sort of situation. And that's what they want to streamline it more towards. Look, I'm kind of bummed that it was scrapped. I was actually like, I was the only guy who was like, why isn't Skull and Bones being shown? Oh, this is the one. We're going to get some Skull and Bones information. I really want a game about just the pirate mechanics of Assassin's Creed 4. So I was a little bit bummed. But yeah, you did steal mine, Neil. It finally happened.
I honestly, in regards to the Skull and Bones in general, I didn't even realize that it wasn't there until I saw the article. Like, that's how little interest I had in that title.
Yeah. Anytime it'd be brought up, it'd be like, everybody would be like, well, this is going to be here, this could be here. And I'll be like, Skull and Bones? Is Skull and Bones could be there? Yeah. Okay, so my last one is the last podcast Unlocked. They talked to Jason Rowland, who works on the Series X team for creating that console. And they were talking about data management specifically. And I really liked what I heard about that. Basically, the way they're doing their data management, and unfortunately, it was a while ago when I heard this and wrote it down, so I can't quote it correctly. But they have basically like velocity architecture. So the idea behind it is you won't have to install as much from a game to the system. So like when you install a game, you install everything that game could ever do on your system. But like he was talking about like with the way we do it now, your system can kind of figure out what it absolutely needs. A good example being like, if you're an English-speaking person and your system is set to English, the game will only download the English-speaking version unless you ask it to download more. And that way, you actually won't be using as much data as you were before. And he was basically saying like he couldn't give numbers, obviously, but he was basically saying the idea being that while the overall install bases will go up because everything's in 4K and whatnot, it won't go up as significantly much as it would if you were just up-resing the system to a higher thing, like with Xbox One X,
Right.
Which I thought was really cool and interesting. I really like that. That's something that has been very, very, very worrying to me about the new systems, is their storage capacity.
Well, you're actually setting me up perfect for my last one.
Yay.
So
Synergy, baby.
Microsoft Flight Simulator is coming out. Now this is
non-gamers game.
The non-gamers game. But something very interesting is happening with it. The European version of Flight Simulator is being shipped on 10 double-sided DVDs. The install is 90 gigs from that, on top of a day one download as well, which there was not specifics on. I mean, this makes sense because the
they need that many DVDs for a 90 gig update? I mean, shit. Red Dead Redemption was like 100 something, and that was one disc.
Well, you got to figure a standard DVD can hold something along those lines of it's like 4 gigabytes, 4.6 gigabytes, something along those lines, for one side of a DVD. So
right.
Each one is going to be like 8.6 in total. I mean, the games that we have now, like with PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One used that HD DVD. And the Xbox One uses a Blu-ray. So, I mean, those can hold way, way, way more data.
Why don't they just ship on that then?
I guess they're worried about alienating people who don't have Blu-ray drives. I mean, I guess that may... but honestly, there's not very many computers even anymore, unless you're running on a desktop computer that really have disk drives. They're all gone. I mean, the size of this makes sense given the fact that apparently the imagery for the game uses, I believe it was 2 petabytes of information collected.
God.
Yeah. And if I am correct, if I'm remembering correctly, a petabyte is 1,000 terabytes.
Yeah.
So,
it's big.
Oh dear God, that is a lot of information.
Well, I mean, they said that you could visit every airport on the planet.
Right.
And that every piece of scenery you fly over is the planet. Like, basically, they made the planet digital.
Right.
Which it's got to be big, right? It's got to be big.
That's yeah.
All right. Well, if that's all for your odds and ends, we can move to the horrible arena.
Alrighty.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
That brings us to the end of the show, the main event, the moment you guys have all been waiting for. That's right, the horrible arena. What is the horrible arena? If this is your first time watching the show, well, first of all, you should watch the show more often. Second of all, the horrible arena is a game in which the two co-hosts, that being me, Zachariah, and my buddy, Neil, a tiny wizard, we pitch a game. We pitch the game based on criteria that we picked the week before. We each take turns picking the criteria, so we each have home field advantage. Now, we will pitch the title of the game, we will pitch the subject of the game, and we will pitch the game to you guys. And then you guys get to take to all the places, the Discords, the Facebooks, the YouTubes, and you get to tell us which one you'd spend your hard-earned money on if you had to. And then next week, we decide a winner. So, with that being said, I picked last week Castlevania, based off one of Neil's odds and ends. I said, Castlevania has been a game basically in purgatory for some time. How would you bring it back, and what company would you make Konami give the game to do so? So, with that being said, the Quantum Torrent...
Wait. I didn't know that we were doing a different developer.
I said you could do any developer. I straight up said that.
Any developer. So Konami can keep it.
What?
So Konami can keep it.
Konami? You can definitely do it with Konami.
Okay.
But you can do it with somebody else. You were not restricted to Konami for the developer.
All right. Well,
that's in the
that's
Discord
fine.
post, mister.
That's
Okay, so with that out of the way, Neil's coin flip has been
Flop.
tossed. You fucked me up, Neil. You fucked me up. You interrupted. You fucked my spiel up, man.
See, now we're going to have an hour-long episode. It's going to happen now.
Neil goes first. Go, Neil.
All right. So mine will be called Project Generations, and it will be done by Konami itself. Konami's going to have to get up off its ass and do something with Castlevania. And I feel like the perfect way to set up more games within the Castlevania series is to do a recap game. But give it a little bit of a twist. So there would be a canonical storyline, as there is with the game series as it is, but, well, there's technically two different storylines. But anyways, the games, there's a lot of games, and they skip around all over the place in the timeline. In Generations, you would play from the first Castlevania to the last established so far in the canon. You would hit the main major beats of the stories, but would still retain those same open world exploration sort of feel, albeit it would be a little bit more restricted given, you know, the current state of things, the current state of the game itself. You wouldn't be able to remake every single game in its entirety into one game. That would just be absurd. So you would play through the main story beats and chronicle the story of the Belmont clan's fight against Dracula and do it as a recap. However, you would add choices to these. These choices could create branching paths that could influence later games in the series chronologically. Or Dracula would make callbacks to things that had happened before, or would have resistances maybe to certain ways that you attempted or ended up killing him in a previous game in the series. Let's say in Symphony of the Night, you just like to spam holy water. I know I do. Then the next game in the series that you would play through chronologically, Dracula would be like, not this time, and has like a resistance to it. Or maybe, let's say you were presented with a choice to maybe save one of two individuals, and that individual would show up in a different game if you saved them. That would be a way that you could get Konami to reestablish themselves with the Castlevania franchise, refamiliarize themselves and the people out there who want to play the games and get into the games in general, to refamiliarize themselves with everything that's happened so far and set up a story carrying on into the future. So that would be my game, Project Generations.
All right. Well, that's a very interesting game right there. You kind of almost giving it the Resident Evil 2 treatment. Kinda, you know, just
I
like
was actually
bringing it back.
I was actually channeling more from Final Fantasy VII Remake, as I'm actually almost done with that game. I have a chapter and a half left.
Well, congratulations on that. Okay. Thankfully, we were worried that we were pitching the same game. We definitely are not pitching the same game. So, no worries on that, sir.
Okay.
All right. So, mine. Castlevania Legacy. Now, Konami has failed on the Castlevania. They want to make gambling machines. So what they need to do is they need to find somebody and sell Castlevania to that company. So that means we need to find a company that can do kind of an anime style with a gothic setting with good straight up play mechanics. And I got to say, it's Bandai Namco all the way. You pick Bandai Namco for this because you need this game to be in 3D. It has to be. We're in a world where AAA games are 3D. I know there's a ton of Pixar games out there, but they're indie games. You need your AAA. Well, I want this to be AAA. I want it to bring the franchise back. So, what's the story? And what's the hook? First of all, I'm not going to say games of service, even though I just did, but I want there to be a replayability to the game that comes from like a kind of looting. I don't necessarily want it to be just about weapons or gear score or anything like that. So I was really thinking about it. So here's the story. The story is Castlevania returns many, many years later. Basically, the last Castlevania game that happened is the last one. Dracula's dead. Castlevania's gone for good. So the Belmonts actually break up. They spread out over the world. They become different people and have different names or whatever. The bloodline gets thinned. And then somehow, out of nowhere, Castlevania does manage to come back with Dracula inside. Not only does he come back, but he somehow summons all the Belmonts to the massive castle and the massive castle grounds before all the demons spread out and start to terrorize things. So this game is about looting characters. Here's what you do. You start with one character that you get a roll for. Much like procedural generation with State of Decay or anything like that, everything about the character, it's not necessarily random. It kind of works together, but you get a random class, you get a random kind of design of the character, you get a random way it fights, and whatever the class and whatever its system is how it deals with the game, how it interacts, how it changes that on a whole. Now, how you get through the Castlevania, just like every other Metroidvania, Castlevania game, there are certain areas you can traverse with your character, in certain areas you can't. So what do? You have to find the other characters. Each time you find a character, it's another role. So your characters are completely and totally random from other people's characters who are playing this game, getting completely different experiences. If you get a character you don't like, you just put them on the back burner and you get another character. I also want a 4-person team, much in the kin of Final Fantasy 15. Weirdly, we were talking about that earlier, but where you can you have the other characters with you. The difference is, instead of just playing one, I want you to be able to switch between them. Not like Ultimate Alliance, but like something along the lines of can't think of the title of it, but you know what I mean. Like you could switch on the fly between the characters to do different things, like a Dragon's Age. If anybody else out there knows what I'm talking about there. And that's how combat will work. But that's also, each class gives you a new way to traverse the landscape, which gives you new places to unlock. What's really interesting about this, too, is the level design will be very smart and intelligent, but it'll make it very interesting because depending on what you roll, what characters you get to start, is where you will be able to traverse. So your path through the castle will be completely different each time you play, each time you go through it, and each time you deal with it. So that's my rebank of Castlevania Legacy, is Castlevania Legacy. So there you guys have it. You've got your 2 projects. There it is. What are you guys going to spend your hard-earned money on? Are you going to spend it on Castlevania Generations or Castlevania Legacy? You're going to have to let us know. All right, so with that said, Neil, what is your choice for next week? It is your turn.
Next week is going to be a fun one. Next week is going to be crossover. 2 game series, IPs, licenses, whatever you desire, crossover into one brand new game, be it a shared universe, be it one going into the other's universe to help them out with something along those lines, almost like a Avengers sort of deal, or maybe nice. I guess Street Fighter cross Tekken.
I was about to say, can I just pick the one that never came out?
I mean, yeah, / will never come out, right. But something akin to that.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
So that's it, everybody. That's the show for this week. That's episode 51 in a nutshell. So we've got the plugs. Neil, you want to plug anything, buddy?
Well, we just recorded a new batch of Streets of Retro.
It's good. It's good.
Go ahead and check that out, as it was already teased at the top of the show.
Yes. It's like Boo. You will all see. It's like Boo and Do Baseball. It's very good. I was editing them before we got on the podcast, and I'm very excited for them to come out. Continue if you have more plugs.
Oh, well, there's also OMG Dungeons, which I
Mhm.
believe we are nearing the end of.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, you and I and Phil are nearing the end of, but we still have at least 2 episodes before we even like.
Oh, well, that's
Like,
true. Well, I mean, it's coming. We don't want
it
to let
is.
anybody down. So,
It
like,
is
it's
coming.
coming.
And I think we're gonna try and play something else after that. We just haven't quite figured it out because we kind of wanted everybody to be on the screen. Dungeons is one of those games that kind of allows that for the most part.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you right now, On the Hut is a lot of fun to watch. It's not the most fun to edit.
I can imagine.
I can't imagine how tough it would be to jump back and forth between 3 people. So, but yeah. All right. So as for me, you can check out everything the channel has to offer. You can check us out on Facebook at OldManGamingDH, on Twitter at OldManGaming9. Of course, join our Discord. The link is in the description below. You can influence this and every one of our shows from there. And hey, we just like to talk to you guys. We like talking about games. So yeah, until next week, you guys keep watching and listening. We will keep making this. Thank you. The only thing is you need a driver. That's what it is. Like there are 2 types of friends. There's the friends that are like along for the ride and the friends that are driving it. And like, I'm a driver. That's not a compliment. I'm a bad friend because anytime I'm contacting you, there is something selfish about it.
Meh. I mean, it's cool. Like,
I know, but it's like, hey, I need you to do this thing for me. How are you doing also? Like, it's terrible. I've been called out for it before, and I try to be better. The thing is like, I'm a good friend on the aspect that if anybody called me and needed anything, I'd be there. Like, okay, cool, no problem, But like, if I'm calling you, I want to do something, and you have to do something. Like that.